This podcast is part of Mishmash Media. Hey, buddy.
Hey, how's it going?
Very good. Welcome to another episode of Curbcast. My name's Ivan.
And I'm Stephen.
And we are two Seinfeld fans, and we are reviewing every episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm, and we're watching them for the very first time, and we're reviewing every scene in chronological order, and we're up to the penultimate episode of Season 8, Mr. Softee, one that I loved very, very much. Easily one of the best Season 8 episodes.
Yeah, I agree. I thought this was a stellar episode. Very funny, worked out well, lots of moving parts that all come together very succinctly and satisfyingly at the end, which is, the sort of episode I love.
Yes, and I have an appreciation for Bill Buckner. He's a guy that many of Aussies like us have never heard of until we watched Curb. And his backstory, I'll mention it in a minute, but his backstory is fascinating. Like, I did some research on him and I'm like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Doesn't he have a backstory?
He's an interesting cat for sure, yeah.
Very interesting cat. I like Yari the mechanic as well. He's a nut job.
Yeah, they're both pretty wild, but good casting and good characters and well incorporated into the storyline.
Yeah, very. We're going to fuck their sisters in the cunt.
Fuck your sisters in the cunt. Yeah.
Jeff's like, who the fuck says that?
Who talks like that?
Who talks like that?
Well, Larry does, your client for one.
No, Larry says, fucking your sister and the aunt.
True. That's true. That's true. Yeah.
That's what he does.
He might say fucking your aunt in the cunt.
Oh, well, whatever you're into.
Whatever. Well, I mean, if you're the aunt's husband, that's perfectly fine. If you're the uncle, there's nothing wrong with that.
No, absolutely not. Well, in most states, definitely.
That's right. If you want to fuck us in the cunt, you can. You can email us curbcastpod@gmail.com. That might be the crudest intro into the social plugs I've ever done.
And when we say fuck you in the cunt, you mean if you want to send us an email and say hello. That's our euphemism.
A digital cunt fucking, which is a nice email saying how much you like us.
In Australia, we say that word all the time. It's like saying hello.
Yeah, exactly. It's part of everyday vernacular.
It is.
You can email us, curbcastpod@gmail.com. We're on social media as well. Curbcastpod is our handle. You can check out those links in the show note. If you want to support us, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/mishmash media. For $1 US a month, you can get access to our regular episodes a little earlier than normal. And you would just be supporting a couple of dudes from Australia who say cunt a lot. If you think that's worth your cash. Well, I should say one person from Australia because let's face it, it's just me at this stage. And we do have a Facebook group as well, Curb Your Enthusiasm fans. So check that out if you want to join a little community and chat about Curb.
Indeed. And just for those who are new to the podcast, we don't say that word all the time. It's just, it's either a famine or a feast when it comes to that word. We get some episodes where we say it like 5 times in a minute. Others, we don't say it ever.
Yeah, we either gorge on cunt or we're starved for cunt.
Yeah, I'd rather be gorging on Mr. Softee myself. So I'm a bit of an ice cream man. I love my sweets, so I'd rather be eating that right now. And that's the name of the episode for today, Mr. Softee. Like I said, Season 8, Episode 9. This one aired in the US on September 4th, 2011 on HBO for the first time. In this one, an ice cream truck triggers a painful childhood memory for Larry that impacts a softball title game, a therapist's fees, Bill Buckner's legacy, and his new girlfriend's quote-unquote travel preferences. So, yes. The guy's the other man. Yes. The rattling seat. Bit of trivia about the episode, Steve. George Steinbrenner is referenced many times by Yari the mechanic, and we all know who those who watch Seinfeld know George Steinbrenner. Of course, he was the real life Yankees chairman, and he was also a prominent secondary character, wink wink, in Seinfeld for the last few seasons of Seinfeld. So, he's referenced many times there, and Yari is inspired by George Steinbrenner.
Yeah, he thinks he's the George Steinbrenner of, I guess, the local softball league. He compares himself to, Steinbrenner, who is a legend in American sports. Yeah,
which he's a legend in, like, Central Park or wherever they play.
Yeah, in the local, the local softball field. Softball diamond, I guess it's
I guess field, so, diamond, baseball, softball diamond.
Yeah, the area in which softball's played, whatever it's called.
Yeah, the softball area, how's that?
Yeah, I used to play softball when I was a kid. I should know, but obviously I don't care enough to remember.
Me either. I used to play t-ball when I was young. Did you remember that one?
Yeah. I played t-ball in primary school, and then in high school changed to softball. But I played softball like outside of, like in a club.
Oh, you played in a club? I never knew this. Yeah. How many years did you do that?
Oh, like 2 seasons.
Ah,
Just
there
for a
you go.
local team in the around like where I grew up.
Oh, something new that I learned about you, mate.
Yeah,
Never knew. There you
yeah,
go, softball.
yep. I played left outfield, I think. Yeah,
Yeah, I played softball when I was a bit young as well. I was left right out.
okay.
So,
Oh, very nice. Yeah, you get it.
Oh, you get it. Excellent.
Yeah,
Okay,
you
cool.
can't see me rolling my eyes, but they're rolling.
No, I can't. Because we're recording virtually. No,
Yeah.
I can't. Bill Buckner, I did mention before. Obviously, you Americans who love baseball obviously know Bill Buckner pretty well. But for those who don't, including us before we watched the episode, just a bit of a background about him. An absolutely incredible and at the time polarizing figure. So Bill Buckner, he was an American first baseman and left fielder. He was a left field like yourself in softball, except he was in Major League Baseball. He played for 5 teams from 1969, nice, to 1990, most notably the Chicago Cubs, LA Dodgers, and Boston Red Sox, most infamously. And he is known for accidentally letting the ball go to the left side of his glove in the final leg of the 1986 World Series. He went through his legs, it changed the course of the game, and their opponents, who Mookie Wilson, another baseball player who's referenced in this episode, would eventually win the game and the World Series. So very similar to the way Larry loses the championship in softball.
Yeah,
And,
right.
for many, many years, Buckner wasn't welcome at the, in Boston. Like for some people, Red Sox fans even gave him death threats. That's how bad he was. He was heckled and disliked for many, many years. And Boston fans, they thought it was part of something called the ongoing Curse of the Bambino. So basically, just quickly, the Curse of the Bambino, it's where Boston failed several times to win the World Series since 1918. So Babe Ruth, you probably heard of him before, Steve, legendary baseball player.
Of course.
He led Boston to victory before heading to the Yankees. And ever since Babe Ruth left, Boston never won any World Series, and it took years and years and years. And when Buckner, dropped it in 86, they thought that was going to be their year. They were ahead, and the curse continued, and unfortunately Buckner was maligned by much in the baseball community, especially in Boston. Eventually they did win the World Series in 2004, and they have won another one ever since. I think they've won 2. Larry mentions in the episode. The other guy says it should have been 3, 86 as well. And Buckner was redeemed in the eyes of diehard Boston Red Sox fans in 2004, and unfortunately he passed away in 2019. He was 69 years old. Yes.
Oh, at least he was able to turn his perception around and his fandom. So it would have been pretty tragic if he died that young, still hated that much.
Yeah, well, not hated by everyone in baseball, just, Boston Red Sox fans.
Yeah, but I mean, your fans are the ones that you don't want to be hated by. They're the ones you want to be hated by the least if you're going to be hated by anyone. So, I don't know, I just think that would have been a pretty big burden on him, if he wasn't able to turn it around.
Yeah, I agree. And it's very cool that they got him in for this episode. And, people like berate Bill Buckner all the way to the final, the second last scene, which is absolutely amazing. But,
yeah, and he takes it pretty well. He just says to Larry, you've just got to get used to it. I guess at this stage, it's been a long time. You would be used to it. You would have developed enough of a skin to just let it, slide off.
Yeah. Well, in this case, you can't throw a baseball at Bill, otherwise it'll slide out of his hand.
True.
Just like in Jeff's apartment.
You've got to wonder, when they were pitching him the episode of hey, we're going to make fun of the fact that you dropped a ball and cost your team the series. I don't think I think a lot of people would have too much pride or, I guess even shame to do that. But the fact that he was willing to go, you know what, even though it's caused so much stress and misfortune in his life in terms of, getting heckled and death threats and all that stuff, the fact that he was still able to, make it a joke for the sake of comedy is, I don't know, I think that requires a big, that's risky, and I guess it shows that he's doesn't have an ego, or I don't know, I don't think a lot of actors or anyone would do that. I probably wouldn't. If I was holding on to some great shame, like a public shame, and then someone said, hey, do you want to make fun of it on an episode of a popular TV show? I don't think many people, including me, would be willing to do that.
No, that's true. But you did make a point before, Steve, saying that Bill Buckner was he'd gone through all that shit and he kind of accepted it. So, I think from what I could imagine, Bill Buckner was probably a pretty cool guy. So
yeah, he seems pretty relaxed.
He was happy to lampoon himself.
Yeah. I guess, with time it would be easier. But I still think even I don't know, I think of, say, Michael Richards, right? Everyone knows, we won't go into what sort of caused what you could argue is the end of his career. Even 15 years later, if he was on Curb and they made fun of what happened, I don't think he would be willing to do it. You know what I mean? Obviously what he did was seen as more heinous than maybe what Bill Buckner did. But I don't know, I just don't think many actors, even after 15, 20, 30 years, would do that.
Well, to be fair, last season there was that Seinfeld arc and they did reference Michael Richards, being perceived perceived as racist. I'm like, obviously he didn't, they didn't do it beat for beat as to what happened at the Laugh Factory in that infamous night. But they did kind of like allude to it as if he's accidentally seen as being racist. Even
Actually,
though he's not.
I take back what I said. He actually did. He actually did make fun of himself. So
no, but it is different to Bill though. Like Bill, they actually like lampooned and they bagged him about what he did for real in 1986.
Yeah.
At least with Michael, they kind of skirted the line.
Yeah, I guess it was a bit more subtle.
Yeah. I mean, if Bill Buckner, say it was like 1991 and Jerry's like, hey man, I'm doing an episode with Keith Hernandez and I want another baseball player. Bill, would you like to go on the show and, we'll make fun of what you did 5 years ago in the World Series? He'd probably still feel pretty raw about it.
Yeah, that's true.
Say no.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But I think, like you said, time heals everything. And, he was a good sport about it. And, we got a really good episode. And probably one of the best cameos in Curb, I reckon. One of my favourites so far.
Yeah, no, I enjoyed it as well.
He's just so cool. He's so dry. He's so casual,
He kind of reminds me of Keith Hernandez, just like, just go with the flow. Very cool.
Yeah, very cool. Yeah, exactly.
Easygoing, very likable.
Yeah, very, very likable by Lane and Jerry. Very likable from both of them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but anyway, now, like I said, really good episode. Yeah, and Bill Buckner, like I said, I did research on him before we recorded, and incredible story. If you want to read more about him, just go on Wikipedia, and he's got his entire Wikipedia page is just so detailed. It's amazing. Anyway, let's get into it, man. Scene 1 of Mr. Softee. Larry is at lunch with the Greens and his new girlfriend Jennifer as he's complaining about eating outside. Susie says, it's al fresco. Larry invites Jennifer to their softball game, and Jennifer says that she doesn't like baseball. She says she isn't into sport. She's kind of like not really paying attention to what sport Larry's talking about. What's she call it? She calls it pickleball as well. She's like, enjoy your pickleball game or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so she's obviously, she doesn't have a penchant for sports. Their food arrives, a plate of fish and a plate of chicken. Larry says that they'll split it. Jeff changes his mind because he says the fish doesn't look too good, and he says that he'll just have the chicken as Larry and Jeff argue. Larry says they got both meals to share. Larry takes a bite of the fish and he unironically says that he loves it. Jeff asks for some and Larry says that he made a mistake and he refuses to give him any fish. Although, like, to be fair, when the food did come out, the chicken did look better. But even the fish didn't look too bad either. So, Jeff unfortunately missed out on a good fish, or at least a couple of morsels of it.
Yeah. And
so he had his his average chicken.
Oh, I think chicken's easier to fuck up than fish.
Yeah. I guess. Yeah,
it depends. If it's chicken breast, I think it is because it dries out easily.
Yeah, it looked like a chicken breast that he got. Like a big chicken breast. So you can dry out if you overcook it. Yeah,
totally. Yeah.
So I could imagine like the chicken looked better, but it tasted worse.
Yeah.
And the fish looked not as good, but it tasted really good.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So Larry lucked out. The scene cuts to the end of the lunch, and Larry and Jeff says that they've both learned lessons from each other. We don't know what the lessons are. We're not told. Jennifer says that she has a piano lesson, speaking of, and she has to go as she leaves, and she tells Larry to enjoy his pickleball game and have a shower when she sees him again. Jeff has to go to the bathroom and he walks into the restaurant. Susie asks Larry if he can get a baseball signed by Mookie Wilson for Jeff's birthday, as she's explaining, that there's a baseball convention and Mookie's going to be there and all that sort of stuff. Larry hears an ice cream truck from Mr. Softee and it plays the jingle. Larry is distracted by this as Susie is trying to get his attention. She's like, Larry, are you listening to anything that I'm saying? And he's like, oh, yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm. So sometimes, there's like certain sounds or certain smells or certain sights that, can trigger some people. And for Larry, it was Mr. Softee, and we find out the story. A very interesting origin story for many of Larry's particulars as well.
Yeah, Curb's not really a show that does flashbacks, so it was a bit... I liked it, it was sort of, you saw where the pretty good catchphrase came from, and it's just like a small window into Larry's early life.
Yeah, and what could have been. He says, to the psychiatrist, the therapist later on, he says if she took her top off, then, everything would have changed.
Yeah, I mean, he might not have been a neurotic, narcissistic arsehole,
Well, he would have been an arsehole, definitely. True. Probably not neurotic, though.
Yeah, true.
Larry is at his therapist, Dr. Thurgood's office, in a session, and he's talking about Jennifer, his current girlfriend. He laments that when he sees a happy woman that they're married, and when he sees a happy man, they're single. Larry recounts, like we mentioned just before, an incident in a Mr. Softee truck as a flashback with a teenage Larry and a girl playing strip poker in her father's ice cream truck. Larry is down to his underwear, and she's only got taken off her shoes and socks. He takes off his underwear, and the girl exclaims, "It's pretty, pretty, pretty good." So, yeah, we know where that catchphrase came from. The girl's father walks in. The father throws a naked Larry out of the truck, and people in the neighborhood are mocking him. And yeah, there's like the kids mocking him, saying that he has more pubes down there than on his head. And we mentioned, Janice from The Sopranos was in last week's episode, and Hesh from The Sopranos is coming up. The actor who plays Mikey in season 1 is one of the neighbors who were teasing Larry.
Yeah, lots of Sopranos actors cameos.
Yeah, and it was really good to see. And yeah, I like that kind of grainy kind of style, like it's set in the 70s. You know, that kind of like very like washed out, almost like not quite sepia, but kind of like that. Yeah, it's like a 70s style camera. Really, really cool.
Yeah.
Very cool, like brown kind of pastels and stuff. Yeah, it was to represent Brooklyn. Really cool.
Yeah, no, it definitely provides a certain time and place.
Oh, it does, yeah. Very, very good. And yeah, we find out where Larry's catchphrase came from and probably the origins of his neuroticism, like you said.
Mm.
That's pretty, pretty, pretty good.
What the hell are you doing with my daughter? Come here. Come here. Now, you be quiet. You be quiet and you listen to me. You can open your
What the fuck? Showing. Oh my god, dude! He's got more cash on his phone.
You forgot something, kid.
What the fuck are you doing, kid?
What's the blows on your forehead?
The scene cuts back to Larry and Dr. Thurgood, and Larry says that whenever he hears the Mr. Softee music, it triggers him, and he begins to violently sing the jingle. Really, like, with lots of passion. Very, very violent, very abrasive rendition of it. Larry asks if he can put his shoes up on the coffee table, and Dr. Thurgood, a very calm man, is very fine with it, despite Larry's awkwardness. He eventually takes his feet off the table as he says that Dr. Thurgood might be uncomfortable, even though Dr. Thurgood has insisted, he can put his shoes on or he can take them off, or if he wants, he can get some Japanese slippers that are in the foyer and he can wear those. But yeah, Larry decides, no, I'm taking my shoes off. I'm taking my feet off the table.
Yeah, very relaxed.
Very relaxed. Larry says that the girl only took her shoes and socks off, and if she took her top off, then his whole life would have been different. And I have a theory that she can count cards.
Oh, okay, yeah. No, that makes sense.
Yeah. So she might have learned maybe from her dad, or, maybe he's playing poker with his buddies or something, and, you see like the old movies where the kids are kind of like hanging around playing with each other nearby. Maybe she's like looks at the cards, or maybe was learned or something. Yeah, I think she wanted to get Larry naked, yeah. And so she didn't have to get naked. Yep. Yeah, she counted cards. There's no way Larry was that bad. There's no way he had that many bad hands. Surely.
True. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, you agree with that?
Yeah, I think that's a good
very smart girl.
Totally.
Yeah. And who knows if she even liked Larry? She probably just did it just to, tease him.
Totally, just to scam him.
Just to scam him, yeah. Who knows? Although, to be fair, like when the father goes into the ice cream truck, she does look very scared, and even he like berates her and stuff. So I don't think that was intentional.
Yeah, no, they didn't expect him to pop up.
No, but yeah, very, very good girl, very smart. Larry and his team are warming up for the softball championship game. Larry asks Yari, who is a mechanic and he's also the head of the team, about his car, which is being serviced, and Yari says it'll be ready tomorrow. He calls everyone in to give a supposedly inspiring but lewd speech as they high-five and get ready to play. And yeah, we mentioned his big exclamation during that very uninspiring speech. Yari compares himself, like we mentioned in trivia, to legendary Yankees manager George Steinbrenner, and Jeff and Larry can't believe what Yari said. Yeah, and Jeff's like, who talks like that?
Yeah.
The scene cuts to the final inning, and the team needs one more out to win the match. All the bases are loaded, and they basically, they have to get this next guy out, otherwise home run, game over. Larry is in position, they hit the ball, and it goes into Larry's direction. It rolls into his direction. A Mr. Softee truck turns up, and the music begins playing. Larry turns around, he misses the ball, it goes through his glove and through his legs. The other team wins the match, and Yari and the rest of the teammates get mad, and they can't believe that Larry made such a simple error. Even Yari says even a baby could have grabbed it and thrown it back. And the other team's celebrating, and Yari said that Larry, quote-unquote, Bucknered it. You're Buckner.
Yeah, you're the Bill Buckner of this softball team.
You are. And yeah, it's in the exact same way as Buckner screwed it up in 86. So yeah, it's very, very, very good. Very cool. Leon is waiting outside the building as Larry turns up and explains what happened at the game. And Leon's like, you had a softball game? And Larry's like, yeah, I told you. It's like Leon just forgot. And he says, Leon complains about the guard not letting him in the building as he's been outside quite a while. He hasn't been able to get in. Larry apologizes to Leon on behalf of the Caucasian race. Larry suggests that Leon wears glasses as he believes white people revere black people wearing glasses. And he says if there was a job interview, if there was a white guy with no glasses and a black man with glasses, black man with glasses wins every time. They both enter the building as Larry tells the security guard Leon's with him. Larry says that he's seeing Jennifer tonight as they walk in the door, and Leon says he feels a tingle in his Johnson when he knows someone is going to get laid. Just the way he says it. So good. Jennifer and Larry are at her place and they're having sex in the middle of coitus as a Mr. Softee truck parks outside and the music begins playing. Larry loses his mojo and Jennifer calls him Mr. Softee as she's very disappointed, and understandably so.
Yeah, I mean, he is Mr. Softee and then he is Mr. Softee. Very fitting.
Yeah, literally Mr. Softee, yeah. Literally. The scene cuts the next day to Larry asking Yari for his car at the shop. Yari says that his car is not ready as they argue about it as Yari compares himself again to Steinbrenner and he says things like, oh, I'm sorry, I dropped the ball. Oh, I must have made an error, mocking Larry. And Larry is caught on it and he's he's annoyed by all the things, and Yari they just begin arguing and Yari says that Larry will never wear a shirt, with the name Yari on it again, and Larry says, yeah, I'm not going to do that. That's fine. And Yari gives Larry his keys and tells him to leave the shop after what Larry did at the softball game. So Yari, that's the last time we see him in the episode, and he's very passionate about his softball team.
Yeah, I mean, I understand why you'd be upset. If you consider yourself the Steinbrenner of the local softball league and then you lose the match due to some error, I don't think it excuses him treating Larry that badly, but I get why you'd be upset.
He'd be very upset. Steinbrenner owned the Yankees, and Larry says, well, you own 10 shirts. That's all you own.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, but I can see why Yari's upset. I think it's unfair that Yari didn't work on Larry's car just because of that.
Yeah, I mean, you still got to be professional and do your job, but obviously his emotions got the better of him.
Well, hopefully next year, or in the next year after, Yari took his revenge and fucked their sisters in the cunt and won the championship.
I'm sure he did.
I'm sure he did, many times over. Larry explains to Leon in the foyer of the baseball memorial show about what happened with him and Yari. Larry says that the event is sold out and he can't get a ticket. Leon puts on his glasses from his pocket and he walks up to the security guard as he seems to be sweet-talking him from a distance. Leon goes back up to Larry, he waves him in, and Larry is amazed by, Leon with the glasses, that he's able to go straight in, even though it's a sold-out event. He can't believe the glasses trick worked. Larry is lining up to get Mookie Wilson's autograph, and Dr. Thurgood is in front of him as they greet. Dr. Thurgood implies that they shouldn't communicate outside of the office, and he compares himself to Larry's teacher, who, when Larry was a boy, thought that the teacher actually lived at the school. Larry confides in him about the softball game and the Mr. Softee problem and his sex issues with Jennifer as a result. Dr. Thurgood talks about a very similar story, and he doesn't want to reveal the name, but he was the guitarist from the Grand Funk Railroad who had similar issues. And Larry says that it is troubling that Dr. Thurgood has revealed a client's issue to him and his name, even though Dr. Thurgood said he never mentioned the name.
And he obviously did.
And, he obviously did. Larry spots Bill Buckner, who has no one in the line, and he goes up to go get his autograph. So Mookie kind of plays into what we talked about with Bill. Like, even in the Curb universe, everyone still despises Bill, even in New York. And Bill, I love how Bill just has no one in his line. He's just hanging out.
Yeah, he's a bit of a loner.
Bit of a loner, while Mookie's, the line's nearly out the door. Larry explains to Bill about what happened, and he compared his error to what he did in the softball championship to what Bill did in '86 in the World Series. He asks how Bill dealt with the fallout from it, and he says that he's had a great attitude about it, and it's been many years, and time heals all wounds, and he's gotten over it. They decide to head out for lunch, and Bill goes to get Mookie's autograph for Larry, as he says that he owes him one. Larry and Bill are outside as some passers-by mock Bill. They say, "Oh, Buckner, you suck." And stuff like that. And Larry defends him. He says that they suck, that they're jackasses, whatever they call Bill. And Bill's just really, really zen about the whole thing. He's very resigned about what happened.
Yeah.
The mocking doesn't bother him.
No, I guess, just to cope, you kind of got to be at this stage, right?
Yeah, you have to, yeah, after so many years. Larry invites Bill. They seem to be striking a bit of a friendship as well. They seem to be getting along pretty well. And Larry asks Bill if he likes Broadway, and maybe they should go to a show together. And they're talking about a show as an old Jewish man runs up to them. Hesh from from The Sopranos. Very cool. He asks if any of them are Jewish, and Larry says he is. And the man asks if Larry can join him and his group in what's called a minyan, as Larry explains to Bill what it is. They accept, as there will be lunch provided. Larry, Bill, and the old man arrive at the minyan, and they're greeted by the other 9 men in the group. Larry says that the other 8 men in the group, I should say. Larry says that he wishes for an afterlife for people who died, and he gives his condolences as it's one of the man's uncles, who the minyan is for. One of the men, who is from Boston, was a Red Sox fan, and he notices that Bill Buckner is next to Larry. The old man speaks to the young guy. The young guy whispers to the old man. The old man goes back to them and says that the young man, because of what happened in '86 in the World Series, the young man can't be in the same room as Bill. After what happened, Larry gets angry and he says to Bill, let's get out of here. And Larry gets angry and wishes for no afterlife. He wishes there was no afterlife. You just die. As he and Bill walk out. So obviously, the young guy is a very bitter Red Sox fan. And even Larry mentions you've won 2 World Series since then. And the young guy says, should have been 3. And he still can't get over it.
Yeah, I mean, the wins don't undo the losses.
They don't. The Curse of the Bambino was broken in 2004. So, like we mentioned in trivia. So, I don't know. He's just still filthy. I reckon he might have been like a really young guy or even like a teenager or something. And I feel like that resentment to Bill just kind of built up over the years. He finally, in a one-off, coincidence, Bill happens to be in the same room as him, and he wants to vent out all those years of frustration on him.
Yeah, well, I mean, I can think of situations where I've been upset with someone and they apologize or they make amends, and you accept that, but it doesn't undo the initial feelings. So you can hold both feelings at the same time, I guess.
Yeah, but I mean, like, Bill isn't a friend of that dude. He's just
No.
It's kind of like a bit of a parasocial relationship with him.
Yeah, but still, like, I don't know, regardless of the relationship, if you've got feelings about something, you can have at the same time contradictory feelings.
Yeah.
It's not like his resentment just gets replaced by gratitude or whatever for winning. Like, he's upset that he lost and stoked that he won as well. Yeah,
and then there's young guy who, and they're at a very serious thing, and the young guy, even at a minyan, the young guy is bagging him. You know? So Bill would probably feel pretty dejected even at a wake.
True.
At the Greens' apartment, they greet Larry and Bill as they walk in. Bill looks through an open window to look at the view outside. Larry shows Jeff the Mookie signed ball. Jeff tries to grab it off him, but Larry jokingly keeps the ball for himself. And he goes, hey, Bill, catch this one. He throws it to Bill. Bill misses it, and it goes out of the window onto the street. Susie gets mad at Bill because it's a birthday present, and he should have caught it. He's like, you're a baseball player. You should have caught that. You're a baseball player and you can't catch a toss. Larry is shocked, and even Larry gets to the point where he's getting angry at Bill. He's like, how did you miss that?
Yeah, and he's like, it was a pretty good throw. Like, it's like, no.
It was a terrible throw. It was nothing.
He's like, no, the throw was good. The throw was good. I like Larry's face when he's talking about how the throw was good.
The throw was good. Oh, yeah, he's originally trying to defend Bill.
Yeah.
And then eventually even Larry gets caught in the fracas, and he gets frustrated. Larry and Bill are kicked out of the apartment by Susie as Bill calls it a horseshit throw. And Larry says that Bill had a horseshit catch, basically. It's awesome. It's kind of like, they've only met each other that day, and they're almost like close friends. They're almost like Larry and Richard without the violence.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. I mean, if they knew each other for like a couple of years, they probably would have wrestled on the ground, arguing. Larry and Richard would do a lot, but
I guess there hasn't been the time to build up that deeper resentment that results in like physical violence.
I just love the chemistry between Larry and Bill. Like, they've just known each other for a couple of hours, and they're just like good mates.
Yeah,
even inviting him over to Jeff's apartment and stuff. I mean, that's pretty nice commitment there.
Especially from Larry, who doesn't really like anyone. So
yeah, well, I think he feels sorry for Bill Buckner because Bill Buckner.
Yeah,
he basically walked in the same shoes as Bill.
Yeah, he sees them as a bit of not a kindred spirit, but it's a shared experience. He can relate to him.
Yeah, not many people could relate to what happened, what Bill did, I'm sure.
No.
Larry's probably one of the very few in the world, in history. Larry and Jennifer that evening are leaving a restaurant, and Larry invites Jennifer over to his place, which she agrees to. They're in the car as Jeff's seat is rattling and vibrating. Larry is telling her how he will court her when they get home, and he starts talking about like chips and what kind of snacks they should have before they have sex, and he asked, do you like dip? And she becomes very turned on by the motions on the chair, and eventually she has an orgasm. They arrive out the front, and Larry is very happy he got a parking spot out the front of the building. Jennifer asks if Larry can drive her home as she's tired. Larry is stunned at what she's saying, as he's ready. He says he's ready to go. He's prime. He's going to do much better than last time.
Yeah, he's ready to make amends.
He said that he had hit the low point for sex, and he's ready for another go. And he sighs, and he drives her home. So yeah, the seat rattles, and for Jennifer, she had a pretty good drive home. Probably one of the best ones she's had in a while.
I think so. Yeah, definitely. She had a good time. I mean, she's keen for sex, and then after the drive, she's like, I don't really want to have sex anymore. I don't need to.
Yeah, so she didn't pull out a cigarette after. It's like, I'm done, let's go home.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, obviously it was a satisfying experience, and she didn't even need to have sex with her date anymore.
Yeah. So Yari, I guess, kind of fucked Larry in a way as well.
Yeah.
By not fixing the seat. He deprived Larry of a potential, a better sexual encounter.
Yeah. I guess in a way he kind of indirectly fucked her cunt.
Is that the theme for today's episode?
Well, I mean, it's a pretty memorable line, so,
Oh, yeah, it is. Just with such enthusiasm from Yari.
Exactly.
That's why he says it, just screams it. Great.
Yeah.
The next day, Larry is explaining to a bespectacled Leon about what happened last night. Leon says that he is making stupid sense with his glasses. Larry spots a bill from Dr. Thurgood as he's looking through his mail, and the bill apparently is for their very informal chat at the convention, and as they can't believe it. Larry asks if Leon wants to go for a drive as they head to the car to go to Dr. Thurgood's to sort out the bill. Yeah, Larry's like, do you want to go for a drive? And Leon's like, yeah, let's do it. Bring the glasses and see what he can do. They're driving to Dr. Thurgood's, and unlike Jennifer, who was in the car and she reached her climax, Leon, he's more perturbed by the vibrating seat, and he says to Larry that Jennifer probably got off on the car seat, and that's why she didn't want to have sex with him. He calls it a moving dildo, and that men can't beat machinery, and that the chair is quote unquote the other man. The three things that Leon says, like JB Smoove, like playing as Leon, he has an incredible ability to throw like 2 or 3 very funny like taglines in a line. Like he says it's a moving dildo, men can't beat machinery, and the chair is the other man. He says it in like 2 sentences.
Yeah, no,
the way he delivers it is fantastic.
Really quick and really sharp. Yeah.
Yeah, I just loved it. Yeah, she's fucking the other man. This is the other man. Chair's the other man. Just the way he delivers. Oh man. It's so good. Very well delivered. The scene cuts to the duo who are greeted by Dr. Thurgood at the office. Larry questions him about the bill outside of his office. Dr. Thurgood says that the session is valid, and he implies that Larry is a narcissist. Which confuses Larry, and Larry says, he's saying I'm a narcissist? And he goes, no, I didn't say that. Dr. Thurgood's trying to backtrack. Dr. Thurgood, gives an example of a well-known Star Wars director. Larry points out that that's George Lucas. And Dr. Thurgood says, no, that's not what I was trying to say. Larry asks again if Dr. Thurgood ever spoke to other clients about him, and Dr. Thurgood says no one's ever asked about Larry. Dr. Thurgood says that Lucas would pay for prostitutes. He had a penchant for prostitutes, and he'd pay them for 1 hour's work, and he'd only last 3 to 5 minutes, he'd say. After, say, 3 to 5 minutes of effort, he would still pay that prostitute for an hour. So he kind of says it's kind of like a metaphor for Larry's impromptu chat at the convention, which is completely understandable. I mean, you don't charge a therapist by the minute. You do charge them by the hour. But Steve, do you think that Dr. Thurgood should have charged Larry for that advice? I'd say yes.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think paying for expertise is reasonable, or charging for expertise is reasonable.
Reasonable?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, because even Dr. Thurgood, like at the convention, gave him an out. He said, I'm like the teacher that you thought stays in the school, lives in the school. He's kind of like warning Larry. He's not directly saying we shouldn't talk, but
this is not the right place. It's probably a case of like, if I were him, if I were Dr. Thurgood, like me personally, I probably have the thought that, oh, geez, I should be charging for this time, but then I just wouldn't do it. I think a lot of people probably feel like that, there's the stereotype of like if a doctor's at a party and someone comes up and they're like, oh, I've got this weird ache in my shoulder or whatever. They start a conversation about whatever their profession is and get advice. I'm sure that happens a lot to all sorts of different professions. And the thought probably crossed their mind of like, I should be getting paid for this. Like, I'm not at work. Why? But then you just don't. You just like give the advice or talk about it and move on. So
My gut feeling is that maybe, well, actually, I did say that Thurgood should have charged. I didn't complete the sentence. He should have charged Larry.
yeah,
Larry, definitely. I feel like if it were, say, another client of his that he probably respected more, he probably wouldn't do it. But I think
Yeah.
Dr. Thurgood, he's got to keep that kind of doctor-patient, therapist-patient confidentiality and all that sort of stuff.
yeah, you've got to keep it.
Hippocratic oath, whatever that therapists follow. And I feel like with Larry, he doesn't respect him.
Yeah.
He's like a patient, but he just thinks he's a narcissist.
Yeah.
So he thinks, I'll just charge him. Fuck it.
But at the same time, like, Dr. Thurgood's a pretty shit fucking doctor as well for like
He's
just...
extremely unethical.
Oh,
Extremely
totally. Like,
unethical.
so it's like, I don't know. I can see an argument for charging him, and then I can also see an argument for not charging him because it's like, well, he's pretty shit at his job.
He is. I mean, it's absolutely terrible. Like, you're going against the doctor-patient privilege. You're not revealing names directly, but you're basically describing,
Well,
someone's most famous body of work.
You're providing enough information to de-anonymize the client.
Yeah, he doxes them.
Yeah.
Yeah, unintentionally just doxes them. Yeah, because Larry's like, who else directed Star Wars? It's like
Yeah.
George Lucas.
And there's probably only, I don't know anything about Grand Funk Railroad, but I'm sure there's only one guitar player.
I'm sure there would have been like one prominent one at least.
Yeah, you'd be able to figure out who it is pretty quickly.
Very quickly, yeah. So I guess Dr. Thurgood, he's not really... Okay, well, maybe he shouldn't have charged him then.
No, it's like, well, I mean, he shouldn't even be practicing, let alone charging for extracurricular advice.
I hope his license gets revoked and he has to sell all that baseball memorabilia in his office. So,
True, yeah.
Some money. Yes, he's Dr. Thur bad, am I right?
Ha ha ha, another shit joke. Love it.
You liked it, come on.
No, I didn't.
Dr. Thurbad shuts the door, and Leon says to Larry that he'll try and get the bill waived as he puts on the glasses and walks in the door. Dr. Thurgood, allow me to introduce myself. As he walks in the door. The scene cuts to Leon and Dr. Thurgood saying goodbye, and they're having a bit of a chit-chat as Dr. Thurgood thanks Leon for the talk, closes the door. Leon says to Larry that Thurgood ripped up the bill and threw it in the garbage, and Larry can't believe it. Leon says he also has another ball signed by Mookie Wilson, and Larry asks if Leon was given the ball, and Leon says, "Nah, I stole it." Of course. I don't think Leon would have that much sway to steal a ball, especially from someone like Thurgood, where we do see in his office he has lots of baseball memorabilia. So, he's a huge fan of the sport, hence why he was at the convention. So I don't think he'd give something away like that.
True, yeah.
Yeah. So, I love it how, like, Leon's just basically been able to get away with everything with his glasses, but one of the things that Larry wants, he just went back to his old ways. It's like, I stole it.
Yeah, it's a fun misdirect when he's like, wow, and he's just like, no, I stole it.
Yeah, he just says, like, right at the end before the scene cuts. He's like, yeah, I stole it. Yeah, it's back to like LA Leon, like pre-glasses, pre-spectacle Leon.
Gangster Leon.
Gangster Leon, love it. Larry pulls up at Jeff's building and a distressed Susie runs out. She says that her cousin lives in a building which is on fire and she needs a ride there. Larry offers to give her the Mookie ball, but she refuses it. Larry suggests that she takes a cab or to sit in the back seat. He can be her limo driver. After finding out what the passenger seat does to women, Susie insists that she get in the front seat and Larry eventually gives in. And this is probably one of my favorite scenes in the episode. It's just Larry's facial expressions, his noises. Oh my god. The scene cuts to an aroused Susie. At first, like, she's kind of confused as to what's going on. Like, she's kind of getting all the convulsions, where she's like, oh, what's happening? And then eventually she succumbs to it, so to speak, and she climaxes, she finishes as well. They're driving towards the building as she's heading towards climax. A repulsed Larry can't believe what's happening as she eventually finishes. Larry's facial expressions, his noise, it's fantastic. That scene, it's so funny. They accidentally crash into a Mr. Softee truck, of course, near the building. As they get out, Susie runs to her cousin, who is in the crowd. Larry greets Bill as there is a crowd outside of the building where the fire is, and Larry greets Bill, who was going for a walk near his hotel. The crowd sees a lady with a baby on, I think, maybe the 6th or 7th story of the building. And she's screaming for the fireman to get her baby. The fireman says it's okay for the baby to be let go and land on the trampoline below as the crowd encourage her to drop the baby. She drops the baby and with some opera music playing in the background and in slow motion, the baby lands on the mat and bounces off as a horrified crowd watches on. Bill Buckner runs for the baby in slow motion and catches it in his arms as the crowd celebrate what Bill did, and they all cheer as he is lifted onto the shoulders of a couple of firemen as Larry and others high-five them, and he's redeemed for what he did in 86 in the Curb universe.
Yeah.
That is a wonderful ending. I reckon the episode should have ended there. That's my only gripe with it, because in the final scene, we have Larry and Jennifer. They've just finished having sex, and they're in bed, and Jennifer says she wants to go for a really long drive, and then Larry just kind of looks puzzled. Yeah, I really wish that wasn't the end scene. I really wish Buckner, in triumph, like being triumphant, I really wish they ended it there, but...
would have been good to end on that sort of up.
Yeah, for sure. But it's wonderful. Like, obviously, in the real life, Bill Buckner was vindicated in 2004, but in this universe, he was vindicated in 2011. So after saving a baby, I mean, you can't do better than that.
No, I mean, saving a child from a burning building. Yeah, can't really redeem yourself higher than that.
No, that even if he failed like 5 World Series, he lost 5 of them for Boston or whatever team he played. I reckon if he just did that, he'd be redeemed for all 5.
Yeah, I mean, that just gives you so much goodwill. You can bank on that forever.
You can bank on it forever. And I think it's great how Bill got a really good ending, because, he had shit heaped on him for the entire episode and things went wrong on his end. But it's good that he got his comeuppance.
True.
Wonderful. Yeah. And like I said, we finished with that scene in the bed where Jennifer wishes for wants Larry to take her for a long drive, and this episode ends and the credits roll. And that's Mr. Softee, one of my favourite season 8 episodes. I give this one 5 Larrys out of 5, one of my favourites. And of course, one of my favourites for the whole series so far. What about you?
I give this one 4 out of 5. I really liked it. I don't think I liked it as much as you, obviously, but I couldn't really find any faults with it. I think it was like great, but just not like perfect, I guess.
Yeah, great but not perfect. Yeah. No, but for me, I think all the characters were wonderful. I loved Yari, even though he was only in a couple of scenes. I loved Leon in this episode, especially when he was in the car on the vibrating seat. That was magnificent. Yeah, I loved Bill Buckner as well. I mean, it's so sad, like he's no longer with us, but yeah, a really, really good performance by him. Yeah, everyone was great. Yeah, I love the whole Mr. Softee thing. I love how the truck kind of got integrated in many parts of the story as well, in different ways, like whether it was the music or literally right at the end, like the truck itself gets involved. Yeah, it's great how it just always just pops up.
Yeah, no, it's weaved well into the episode.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so I really enjoyed it. Like I said, 5 for me, but 4 for you. Yeah, definitely one of my favourite episodes of Curb. Yeah.
Nice
very,
one.
very good. Anyway, that was Mr. Softee. Thank you so much for listening. Next week, we are doing the final episode of Season 8, Larry versus Michael J. Fox. So that should be pretty fun. Michael J. Fox becomes I think in the next season as well, a bit of a nemesis for Larry for a few episodes. And obviously, I think his Parkinson's disease will, appear on the show. And we're not sure what happens. We'll see how Larry gets around that one.
Yeah, I'm sure Larry probably says or does something inappropriate to do with his Parkinson's disease, and it gets him into trouble. And I don't know what happens, but I can imagine it.
Yeah, I can't wait. I can't wait till we do that one. That should be good. You can find us on any podcast service. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any new episodes. We did have a bit of a break before last week for a few months, unexpectedly. Well, it was going to be a shorter hiatus, but it got pushed out. What we normally do is we have like a week break in between seasons, but because we've had a big hiatus already, we're going to finish season 8 next week, and we're going to go straight into season 9, episode 1. So you'll see us all the way through to the end of season 9. So
totally.
Yeah, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out.
100%.
Indeed. My name's Ivan.
And I'm Stephen.
And we'll catch you next week for the final episode of season 8 and our recap of season 8 in general. And you take care of yourselves and each other. Goodbye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening. This podcast is part of Mishmash Media, an independent podcast network. Follow us on social media at Mishmash Media AU or support us on Patreon. All those links are in the show notes.